nominated.
Service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to the inaugural edition of the Saturday version of Racing Across America. I'm Seth Merrow, happy to be back in the studio in a morning capacity with a nice, fun interview show, Saturdays and Sundays at 10 o'clock. That'll be the game plan. And again, you probably realized already, but certainly if you haven't tuned in earlier this week, it was available this morning. But Handicappers Report now Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday at 10 o'clock. It's an audio version. Saturday at 9 o'clock. Handicappers Report. As I say, you can find it here on the network Thursday and Friday at 10 or Saturday at 9. But you can also click on the podcast link at capitalotb.com and listen at your leisure on your computer or your mobile device. Handicappers Report, now some morning programming Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. And again, Saturdays and Sundays, we will be in with Racing Across America. And we're kicking things off with a fun show today. We had a chance to catch up with Chad Brown and interview him yesterday. We'll start the show with that. Nice talk with Chad. We went over kind of a roster of horses that were big players last year and some that are going to be just as big again this year. So we hit on that and other topics with Chad, including his selection as the Times Union Sports Person of the Year. A little bit later on, we'll be joined right here in the studio by our friend Roddy Valente, prominent local owner. We'll talk about some of the horses he has live and going into 2018, and we will also talk at the end of the hour with our friend Dale Romans from Florida via phone. Dale has Dak Attack in today's Mucho Macho Man. We'll talk about that one. He's also got some other live 3-year-olds this year that could be a lot of fun. He's got a horse also, maiden first-time starter in the 8th today at Gulfstream. I'll see if we can get a little inside info on that one as well. That's all coming up on this, our first Saturday edition of Racing Across America. Of course, we're stepping into the big shoes of Mark Cassano, who wrapped up 25 years. It was fun to watch the final show, and if you didn't catch it originally with the snowy weather a couple nights ago and no night action really, it was replayed, and it was fun to watch that. It was fun to see Mark and Mike Veach get back together again, and the nice final program of down the stretch where Mike visited with Mark, and that was a fun segment, but then also Mark pulling up some of his favorite interviews over the years. As I say, big shoes to fill here on Saturday morning, but hopefully we can do it successfully. As you see there, as promised during Mark's last show, John Signor, Capital OTB president, was one of the guests, and he said, Mark, we're going to remember you here by naming the studio the Mark Cassano Studio, and the plaque went up. It's probably been up a month and a half or so at least, and so we are broadcasting now live from the Mark Cassano Studio. So hopefully Mark is enjoying his time off, kicked back. I'm sure he's not enjoying the weather. None of us are, but I know Mark notorious for not liking the winter weather. I'm right with him. But we get to live vicariously through some of the Florida tracks, watching them here on the network. And speaking of Florida, Chad Brown is in Florida right now. He'll have a horse at Gulfstream Park this afternoon. One of our sponsors, Gulfstream Park Champions, start here. We want to thank them. And Chad, potentially the favorite in Mask in today's Mucho Macho Man. We hit on that horse and much, much more. Again, sat down, talked about 20 minutes or so with Chad Brown. We'll jump into that interview right now. Coming up a little later on, Roddy Valente, Dale Romans. Stay tuned. Catch up now with Chad Brown. We talked to him yesterday. Here it goes. as Trainer of the Year in the Eclipse Awards, but also, if my count is right, 6 of your horses are finalists in the various categories. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. That actually means more than anything. To us, our team is the horses getting the recognition, and those 6 horses certainly deserve it.
Yeah, it's certainly a big year. You had a great year, and following up a good 2016 where, again, you won the Eclipse Award. And I want to go, obviously, an Eclipse Award is a great national honor, international honor for that matter, but I want to go back to a few weeks ago. It was kind of fun. The Times Union voted you Sports Person of the Year for 2017, and there was a nice Q&A with our friend Tim Wilkin. I enjoyed that, and you mentioned how it was an honor for you. And I just think, as a horse racing fan, it was great for me to see a horse person be Sports Person of the Year. Had to be fun for you, for kind of the hometown newspaper to recognize you.
It really was. It was quite an honor, and I tell you, it put a big smile on my face seeing that, because, growing up in Mechanicville, and, a Times Union, is everywhere you look, and it's just, it's a big accomplishment, and like you, I always like to see horse racing get good publicity in the Capital Region. There's so many fans around that I get to feel it during the Saratoga meet every year, and hopefully it brings a few more fans in.
And I have to ask, did you play high school sports in Mechanicville? Because I'm just wondering, did you envision being Sports Person of the Year at some point?
Yeah. I played some sports, and but never good enough to make it a Sports Person of the Year in the sports I was playing. That's for sure. But just like I spoke about in the Q&A, what a great community to grow up in. What a nice city, and I still enjoy going back when I can find time. And it just seems like I always run into somebody I know, and still a very close knit community. And I really like the opportunity to bring some recognition to it, and so hopefully we can provide some more in the years to come.
Yeah, that was a nice answer you gave, kind of giving credit to Mechanicville. And I grew up in Amsterdam, and I think it was an upstate community that's very much the same. It was a great place to raise kids. It was a great place to grow up, and you go back and you see people you remember, and you talked a little bit about Mechanicville in that fashion. Let's go back before we talk some of the horses from the last year and going into this year. But before we do that, for people who aren't familiar, Mark Cassano, I said to you before we went on the air, we're filling his slot now, filling his big shoes on Saturday morning, but he had the final show a few weeks back, and he and Mike Veach were sitting in here, and because you're a local guy, they had a conversation about you and kind of tipped their cap to what you've done at such a young age. You just turned 39, and again, a lot of great accomplishments at a young age, but for people who don't know, tell us how you got into the horse racing game.
Well, just being, growing up so close to Saratoga, and I was fortunate to have parents that took me to the races as a child out in the picnic area, and I just fell in love with the sport. I wanted to find a way to work with horses, and over time, I was fortunate enough to meet the right people at the right times, and really network and learn from some great people, and a lot of people along the way opened doors for me, and I consider myself to be very, very lucky with the opportunities I've been given, and all the people I've met, and I'm, I just love my job. I wouldn't do anything else. Like any other business or profession, it can be challenging, particularly when you own your own company. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love horses. I love working outdoors, and for me, it's just the greatest sport on earth.
And you mentioned the people that you kind of mentored under. Toss out some of those names, because you really were with some of the best in the business. Yeah.
Well, I started in the local area with a standardbred trainer by the name of Paul Kelly, a very successful trainer. Doesn't have a huge stable and was really hands-on. And was the first person I met in any sort of horse training, racing. And I started with standardbreds as a teenager. He really took the time to teach me the right way of doing things. And then I switched over to thoroughbreds. Chick McGahee was nice enough to give me a job, and I learned quite a bit from him. And then down the road, through college and stuff at Cornell, I was thinking about the vet path at some point in time, but decided that when I got out of school, I wanted to go back to the racetrack, and I was fortunate enough to meet Bobby Frankel and move out west to California to learn from him and his great team, and he really took everything to the next level for me.
And you mentioned it earlier, a small business. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Talk about that in some aspect, that folks look at it as a sport and a trainer and the horses, but there's the whole back end where, particularly an operation the size of yours, you have a lot of employees, and so there's a whole business aspect to it that people may not realize.
Yeah, there's a huge business aspect to it. Like I said, I'm a horse trainer and I own my own company, and like a lot of head trainers do, and with that there's a lot of responsibilities, and you have to balance things. And my primary job is to condition the horses and make a lot of good decisions based on their well-being, their development, evaluating horses at all ages and classes, and that really needs to be where your talent lies. But in addition to that, there's a lot of other issues with running the company from a business side that can make you or break you. And I'm lucky to have been very well trained, but in addition to that, you have to learn on your own too. So we've learned by trial and error as the company's grown over 10 years, and fortunately I have an outstanding team under me that we don't have a lot of turnover with. I mean, these are people who've been with us a long time, with me, and very talented at each of their specific duties every day.
Yeah, again, I think a lot of people don't really put that all together, but as you say, it's a small business that you own, essentially. And I kind of laughed, again, before we get to the horses, I just want to touch on one more thing. I pulled up, there's actually a Chad Brown Wikipedia page, and I was looking at it last night, and I kind of laughed. I never know what exactly to believe off Wikipedia, but it said when you first approached Saratoga on your own as a trainer, you were turned down for stalls?
Yeah, I was denied my first application, and I was on a waiting list, and I didn't get stalls till just a few days before the meet, and luckily that first meet went on to we did well right off the bat, and that's what you really need to do as a young trainer, and start winning right away and get those opportunities. It's I appreciate you bringing that up, because sometimes in this business, I guess like a lot of business where it's a sport and there's a lot of competition to succeed, competition for clients, competition for opportunities, that it might look one way where, well, I worked for two Hall of Fame trainers and, I had a great start. Well, on the other hand, I didn't really grow up with any family that, gave me any shortcuts in the game. And even leaving Bobby, I didn't have a whole lot of breaks. I had a great resume, but I wasn't given stalls. I was turned down stalls at the fairgrounds my first year, Saratoga. I mean, I was turned down at a handful of places, and I only had 10 horses. So you just have to go out there and surround yourself with the right people, and you have to kind of make your own opportunities. And unfortunately, me and my team, we've done that.
Yeah, and done a great job with it too. Yeah, the Wikipedia said you had 10 horses, one with your first one, but it was immediately claimed.
Yeah, the very first one at Churchill was a horse owned by Ken and Sarah Ramsey, and it was claimed, and then we're down to 9 horses right away. So they had to rebuild, and it was a long time to wait for that next win. It took a while, and but those are the trials and tribulations you go through starting your own business, and it's not going to be easy. We know that, and like I said, I've had a lot of luck along the way too. Just being in the right place at the right time, and you have an opportunity, you got to seize it.
Yeah, well, as they say, you got to make some of your own luck, and you've done a great job. And let's talk about some of the horses, because how things have changed. But let's go right to Saturday afternoon at Gulfstream, the Mucho Macho Man. We're kind of taking the baby steps along what is potentially, the Triple Crown Trail. As the calendar turned, so did the age of the horses. So we're now talking 3-year-olds. And in the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream on Saturday afternoon, you have Mask, who really looked good in that career debut on October 20th at Belmont. wins over Navistar. Navistar was a $900,000 two-year-old OBS purchase who won next time out. So that was a nice, impressive win. Nice 88 buyer figure. Talk a little bit about how Mask is coming into the race and what you expect Saturday afternoon in Lucha Macho Man.
Matt is doing very well. This horse has always been very highly regarded in our barn, even at the farm before he came in, and he's always showed a ton of ability. He took a little while to get to the races. He had some baby things he was dealing with in Saratoga, primarily some sore shins and stuff. And then we waited to the fall to debut him, gave him his time, and he didn't disappoint us. He ran terrific. The next fitting that race, a few more little baby issues, we'll call them, just minor things maybe, just to give him some time, be patient. We kept him with us. He was always in some sort of training. We just backed off the gas pedal a little bit with him and let him come into himself and grow a little bit. And he has done that. We've shipped him to Florida, and he's filled out, looks terrific, and he's sound, and he seems to be over all of his immaturity issues physically and really training well. So I'm really excited to see him run tomorrow.
You like the one-turn mile?
I do. That's why I'm running him in a stake. It really wouldn't be my move off a little mini layoff and only a second star, first time stretching out a bit. I'd rather run an allowance race and only run against horses that have only won one race like him. But I just don't have that distance to race right in front of me now, and he's ready to run. And I think he's talented enough to make the jump. So not a perfect setup for me, condition-wise, but I like the distance and the timing.
All right, let's catch up a little bit. Good Magic, finalist for the two-year-old of the year, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, went into that as a maiden. Let's talk a little bit about the early part of the career, though, because this was a buzz horse up at Saratoga. Winds up second in the career debut. Then you move right into the Champagne, a good second there. Were the second-place finishes a little bit disappointing, given the expectations for the horse?
Yeah, the first one was. I thought he was well lined up to break his debut in good fashion up at Saratoga and then stretch him out from there. And I was surprised he just couldn't get by his rival there. And I was quite disappointed after the race. And it took me a few days to really bounce out of it mentally to figure this out. I thought he had a really good line on this horse, and I just couldn't believe that we could be wrong. But he did run well, didn't win. And it was apparent, Seth, in the days after that the track was really biased for a few days. And I hate to use that excuse, but the rail was so good. And if you were just off the rail, you were at a disadvantage. And so we went with that. We trained on, and man, he trained great when I got him to Belmont. And I said, I'm just going to draw a line through that and go right into a stake because I'm going to treat him like he won. And he nearly pulled it off. I thought he ran terrific. It's unfortunate he got run down late, but he did most of the work up near the front, and that horse came and got him. And it was enough for me to go on to the Breeders' Cup if he showed us continued improvement in the morning, which he did.
And what's the game plan now? I understand he's back with you training.
Yeah, he just got back to me. We gave him a little bit of time over at Stone Street, Ocala Division, where he was broke, and he just was sent back into me a little over a week ago. He's training really well, and we're just going to take it from there. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks I can start breezing him.
All right, I got to ask about another horse because there was some news in maybe the middle of December. Lady Eli comes out of the disappointment in the Breeders' Cup, but obviously there was the excuse there with the cut, and that made her avoid the sale she was scheduled for. And then about the middle of December, there was some talk that maybe she would come back to the races. Has any decision been made about Lady Eli?
No, I think that decision's coming soon. I haven't been given any the final decision by anyone relayed to me. She's still at the farm in Kentucky. I do know that, and I'm fully healed, thank God. And so she's doing well, but I think they're going to decide this week, hopefully.
Yeah, the pictures were really brutal. Was the cut as bad as the pictures looked?
Yeah, she was cut up pretty bad, and actually she lost the shoe very early in the race. Sent me a picture of a shoe flying over the head of a jockey right behind her an eighth of a mile into the race. So so that was unfortunate as well. She lost one of her shoes that early. So just, again, not a big excuse maker, but uncharacteristic of her finish. And she definitely had an excuse there.
That's one where you can buy into the excuse, particularly if you saw the pictures. But she has been one of the great stories over the past couple of seasons, so it's going to be fun to see what they decide to do. Another horse from last year, get a little update on cloud computing. And as we talk about cloud computing, again, in the Q&A Tim Wilkin did with you, he asked if you had one horse, a wow horse from the season, and it was cloud computing. And I assume because he put the first classic, the first Triple Crown race on your resume. Talk a little bit about your win in the Preakness with cloud computing.
Yeah, what a feeling that was. We've been not lucky to participate in a lot of big races and Breeders' Cup success and such, and but nothing like being in there in a Triple Crown race and getting it done. And that horse to finish there was close, and it was quite a thrill. It was our highlight of the year last year, and he's back with me at Palmetto's in some light training. He really looks good. After 2 races at Saratoga, he didn't fire, and we found a chip in his front ankle. So hopefully that was the reason for that. And it seems to have gone really smooth, the surgery. His ankles look fine. He's nice and sound. So we're optimistic he's going to have a big year this year.
You have any timetable?
No, not yet. All I can say is it's doubtful he'll see any action in South Florida down here. He won't be ready. But by the time we head up to New York, I'm hoping about that time he'll be ready to do something.
Sounds good. All right, I also want to touch on Rushing Fall. Really nice 2-year-old filly. And again, you had 6 horses in among the finalists for Eclipse Awards. Rushing Fall was in as a 2-year-old filly. Interesting because her 3 wins, were all on the turf. Talk a little bit about her 2-year-old season, your expectations for her as a 3-year-old now.
What can I say? Just flawless. This filly went out there and ran 3 huge races for us in 7 weeks' time, which is hard to do, particularly on the turf. And I like to give my horse a little bit more time in between starts. I'm so proud of her that she's able to get it done. Quite a talent. Since the first time we saw her breeze on the turf, I mean, she was something special. I'm crossing my fingers that the voters really consider her. I know that she's a turf horse, but she is undefeated, and just ran outstanding all 3 starts in a short frame of time, like I said, time frame, excuse me. So we'll just see how it pans out. But she's at the farm right now in Stone Street as well, and scheduled to come into us in about 2 weeks. Her first start of the year is going to be at Keeneland.
And I want to touch on this, to me, a very, very interesting story. Stellar Win goes to the sales. They pay a lot of money, and they come out of the sale and say, you know what, maybe we'll try the Pegasus, and Stellar Win goes into your barn. Fill us in on how she's doing and what you're expecting in a few weeks down the road in the Pegasus.
Yeah, I got the call and that they were going to send her in, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with her.
Is the pressure on in that kind of situation?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's a big price tag for her, but we're not. We've had this kind of pressure with expensive horses before, and we our team, we want the ball if we're given the opportunity. That's just how we are. And but it's a big horse race, and it's not like she's one of the favorites, but she's a champion horse, and she came into me in very good condition. The plan was really just to train her along and see how she does, and if she's doing outstanding, we'll run her in the race. And as I'm told, it'll be her last start, and then she'll be bred. And if she's not up to it, there's no pressure to run her. And she came in. I wasn't really knowing what to expect. She didn't really run around the Breeders' Cup. Maybe she's had enough, and she's turning 6. But I'll tell you, she is training really well. So right now we're on target for the race, and I'm curious to see what she'll do in there.
Yeah, she'll be a fun story, certainly, going into that event. All right, Chad, before we let you go, always like to give our listeners, our viewers here, some ideas. And you've got some maidens on Sunday's card at Gulfstream, and I just wanted to touch on them because a couple of first-time starters and a European import, and get some thoughts. The 6th race at Gulfstream on Sunday. It's a maiden special. First, I want to talk about the Klarovich first-time starter. This horse is kind of interesting. Competitive Balance. I love Into Mischief as producing precocious runners. He's the sire of this 4-year-old filly, and that's what's interesting. Competitive Balance bought at a 2-year-old sale in March of 2016, couple $100,000, Into Mischief on top, but clearly a little bit of a delayed debut. What are you looking for Competitive Balance on Sunday?
Finally got her there. Obviously had some physical issues, and lately she's been training good. When we bought her, we weren't originally thinking turf with that pedigree, but finally got her onto the grass in the morning drills, and she moved up on it. So I'm going to get her to where I think she belongs, and we'll see what happens. I mean, she's finally making her debut, this late in her life. So I'm not real bullish on saying that she's ready to win first time out, but she does train like she has some ability.
Battle Flag is in the same race. This horse has had 3 starts, but they were all in Europe. Hasn't been seen since March of last year by Warfront. Why the move over? Adds Lasix. Is that the reason why the move over from Europe? But these European horses, what's your game plan when you get them over, and what is the kind of the training regimen to move them into American racing?
Well, I'm not sure exactly the circumstances to move over here, but Joe Allen races as they get older over in America. As I understand, he sent me a handful, including her. So
okay.
She came into me in really good shape. She's training particularly well. And, we get these European horses, and we have a basic program that we put them in that Bobby taught me. But then once they're in the program, we start to evaluate them, and they sort of get separated, and we form their individual program for them. But so we put this filly into our program, what we normally do, and she's responded really well. I expect her to give a real good account of herself.
Johnny Velasquez on board on Sunday. And the 8th race on Sunday, one more horse to talk about, another maiden special event on the grass at a mile. Reverse the decision. It's another Klarovich horse. This one a little more like a Klarovich horse. This is only a 3-year-old, but don't forget, last week was still a 2-year-old. So this is getting a more timely debut. Talk a little bit about Reverse the Decision and the career debut coming up on Sunday.
She's training really well. This is a filly that we've always thought a lot of. She just took a little bit of time to get there. Had a couple little minor issues in the fall. I had her about ready to run in New York, and I had to back off a touch. Got her down to Florida. She resumed training and been doing fabulous. She's a horse I have high hopes for.
All right, Chad, we appreciate your time. Again, we kick off our programming, our Saturday morning programming, and you'll be one of our first guests. So we appreciate your taking the time. We know it's precious, and we not only appreciate your time, but we wish you good luck, not only with Mask on Saturday, but with the whole 2018 season. So a happy New Year, and good luck to you and the team.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that, Chad. Appreciate the I want to thank Chad for taking his time to visit with us yesterday. Again, he has Mask in the Mucho Macho Man this afternoon. We'll see how that one performs. A little bit later, we'll talk with Dale Romans. He has Dak Attack in the Mucho Macho Man. But we'll take this break. When we come back, our friend Roddy Valente is live in the studio. We'll come back. We'll talk with him about some of his horses as well. Stay tuned.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, the inaugural Saturday edition. We just chatted with Chad Brown, and now happy to be joined live in the studio. Our first live guest, Roddy Valente. Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year, Seth.
Happy to have you on board for, as I say, the inaugural edition. And before we get underway, talk some horses and whatnot. First chance I've had to talk to you since, and first chance, obviously, in the studio. But on behalf of everybody who participated, and on behalf of all the folks at Capital OTB, want to thank you guys again, you and your family, for the turkey giveaway, which, again, another success. I pulled into the parking lot about midway through, and there was a big line for the
great
turkey.
event.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartwarming, and this year was really a great turnout.
Yeah, and everybody came in, and not only turkeys, but some spuds as well this year.
Yeah, we did all right this year. We had help from a lot of people, so it was nice. And John always does a good job with Capital OTB, so it's good working with him.
Yeah, it was good to see, absolutely. Roddy, let's get into some of the horses that performed for you in 2017, and maybe get some update on what we can look for in 2018. First, I pulled up, I went back to November 18th, the maiden special, the maiden breaker for Miss Hot Stone. Subsequently, she ran third in the New York Stallion Series. But in the race we're going to look at, Miss Hot Stones is going to be the number 13 horse. We were actually down that day doing some audio broadcasts, and so I was out on the trackside witnessing it. 7 3/4 chart margin. This was a pretty nice maiden breaker. What's up next? As I say, she subsequently ran third in the Stallion Series. What's going to be up next for Miss Hot Stones?
There's A Other Than on the 15th of January, and I know Irad is leaving, but he's coming back that Monday, and he wants to ride the filly, so he naturally will ride her. He's coming back because there's a stake, and Steve had to call on with this filly, and he wanted to keep it, so he called me like right after they made their decision to go down there.
And again, we saw the maiden breaker there. Before that one, she had a couple of second place finishes, so 4 starts, hasn't missed the money yet, and now stakes place. So I'm assuming you're looking forward to 2018.
I am. I got to be truthful. I was so disappointed in her race in the stake. The other 3 races would have won that race, and for some reason, and I don't know why, she didn't have a hiccup or didn't come out of it, but horses have an off day, so hopefully she picks it back up on the 15th, and then we'll go from there.
All right, let's move on and take a look. Again, we're going to look back at a maiden breaker. This one we're going to go back to August of this year up at Saratoga. We're going to look at Looking Ready. Looking Ready's the number 1 horse in here. Subsequently was in some stakes races. The last couple you tried, the AWOD and the Pilgrim, turf races with this one. Obviously the maiden breaker was on the main track. If I'm not mistaken, when I looked up Looking Ready yesterday, working recently in New York, so I'm assuming maybe back on the dirt the winter at Aqueduct for Looking Ready, or what are the plans going forward?
No, this has been a tough horse to get in the proper spot, and what you had said, I think the horse wants to sprint on the turf. We just haven't been able to catch that spot. So, we ran in the open company, and, he held his own. I think he finished third his last race. But we've been holding him because he's been on go for a race, but we really wanted to get one more start in him. He was in to go for Thursday, and they canceled Thursday. But as soon as he runs, we're going to cut him. He's a little goofy in the morning. We think it'll help him out. He's a very sound horse. You could see his pedigree. He's well bred, more than ready. And I think when he appears back in the spring and he gets a chance to run on the turf going short, I think you're going to see the real horse, or hopefully what we think of him anyways.
Talk about that, because when I'm in here handicapping in the afternoons, I've said for probably the past month anyway, we're at that time period where as a handicapper it's tough, because there are turf horses who fill up dirt races now, because obviously the turf season is over. And as handicappers, I think we assume, but I'll let you as an owner confirm that if you're an owner or a trainer and you have a horse that's kind of a turf horse, well, there's no turf racing. Do you get one in to at least try and say, do we still have a horse for the wintertime, or do we have to put this horse up and come back in the spring?
I know exactly what you're saying, Seth, and I tell you, I have some grass horses that I wouldn't even entertain the dirt. This horse, broke his maiden on the dirt, and he trains like a stake horse on the dirt, so he kind of really fools you. And, another horse that was a disappointment when he went out to Finger Lakes and he was in the Futurity out there, and he didn't run good on the dirt that day. And, he had the caliber to win that race, and he didn't. I think he ran third or fourth, maybe got beat a half a length, but he just didn't perform the way he trained. So this horse is like a tweener, you know, and I know what you're saying. Like I had that filly Basilica, like she won't run 10 jumps on the dirt. So, you know, fortunately, not fortunately, she was a very nice filly. I lost her and they took her out to California, so I'm curious to see how she runs. But she, you know, she was a nice claim and she run, but she's definitely a grass horse. Like if I'd be trying, I'd be wasting a race with her, truthfully.
All right, let's move on to another nice performer for you, Stoney Bennett. We're going to go back and look at the maiden breaker for this one back on September 15th. This was the career debut for this one. Subsequently, 3 stake starts, a 4th in the Sleepy Hollow, a 2nd in the Notebook. That was nice. A little bit of a disappointment last time in the New York Stallion Series, ran 7th. But again, we're looking at the maiden breaker here back in September in the career debut. Stoney Bennett, how'd that one come out of that, as I say, a little bit of a disappointing effort in the New York Stallion Series, and what's next?
Not a little disappointing. He was such a letdown. But, you know, this is a game where, you know, a trainer will listen to a jock, and Irad got off the horse and told him, you know, he felt he should have went by, I think it was Seafoam, Clement's horse that day, and I think we got beat a half a length that day. And he had told Ollie Figgins, he said, Ollie, you know, throw a set of blinkers on the horse. There's so much more there with this horse. And if you followed this horse at all from day one, this horse really trains like a freak. I mean, this horse can go down there in 59, he can go down there in 45. We haven't tapped his potential yet, so we did put the blinkers on him that day. And I read, as soon as he came back, he said, please, put me back on this horse the next time he runs. He said, I was dead wrong. He said, as soon as the horse came to him on the outside, he said, I had a ton of horse when he was sitting off the leader, and when the horse came to him, he said, it just blew his mind. He says, just take the blinkers off. He says, don't get down on this horse. He said, there's so much more potential, but, you know, he has to show it, you know. So what I had asked Ron, or Ollie, I had asked him to turn him out for a couple of weeks, and, you know, with the advice from, I have 2 partners, Doc Alford and Dr. Belinsky, and we all agreed. We were down there, and we were really let down by it, but we turned him out for a couple of weeks, and there's a stake, I believe, on the 12th of February, and we're going to run him back there.
Yeah, very good. And speaking of Ollie, Ollie's a Maryland guy. How'd you wind up associated with Ollie? Because you got a couple of horses with him now, right?
You know, I do. I probably have 7 or 8 with him. But I got started with him last year when Finger Lakes finished up, Seth. We had some horses that really weren't done running. They didn't need to be turned out. And the ones that were, you know, they're a lower caliber horse. Jeremiah trains for me out at Finger Lakes, and he recommended Ollie Figgins. And Ollie, I think we won like 6 out of 8 races with him over the winter last year at Laurel. And actually, you know, I've been with Bruce for so many years, and when Bruce went down to the farm down at Krupe's farm, I said, Bruce, take the 2 best, and, you know, I'm going to disperse the other ones with some other trainers. And I had asked him about Miss Hot Stones and about Stoney Bennett. He said, Rod, I never even seen them. They both of these horses had buck shins, and they were kind of like, they never even showed them to Bruce. The other ones all trained for him, so Bruce took Looking Ready in another one. But the other 2, the last 2, I just said, let me see if Ollie wants to take a couple of babies, and they look like he's done a pretty good job with them so far.
Absolutely. Pulled up your stats on Equibase, and as I go down, you've been a guy over the years involved in some partnerships, because it seemed to me that maybe you were more and more involved in some of these partnerships that have now become very popular. See guys like Michael Dubb is involved in a number of partnerships as you pull up his stats on Equibase. Sal Kuman, there was a little bit of a story with the Eclipse Awards with an email getting sent out pointing out all the partnerships he was involved in as an Owner of the Year Eclipse candidate possibly. But am I right that maybe you're involved a little more and more, and is that a way to kind of spread out and get more horses and have a little more fun in the game?
You know, it's like if I have one of my friends that want to get involved, I'll always get involved with a friend, and it's always fun having a partner and sharing that with them. And like Dr. Belinsky and Doc Alford, who I referred to earlier, we have bought some brood mares, so we've got the mares are working for us pretty good right now, and you know we've got we got an American Pharaoh, we've got an Uncle Mo, we've got some well-bred horses that you're going to see in the upcoming year, in 2 years. So it's like anybody that wants to get involved, we always encourage them. Tony Patagrasso just got involved. Tom Lemon. I've been involved with so many good, but they're all horse guys, and it's really a friendship. It's more than a partnership.
Sure.
It's a friendship.
Want to ask you too about some of the just industry issues. First, as an owner, I said it because Irod, you mentioned he's going down to Florida. It's weather related because the cancellations due to the cold weather and the snow. These guys don't get paid in those situations. So he's down, and the article in the forum mentioned Cordero said Manny Franco may head down for the same reason. And I don't think people think about it. As they say, they don't get paid. But you as an owner, the horses are all still eating, and so these weather cancellations have to be frustrating as an owner as well.
I think it's frustrating, but Seth, it's nothing new to the Northeast. And, I get aggravated because I get more involved because, I started a business that's a private business. And when you're a private business, you go after everything that you can go after because that's how you make your revenue. Yeah. And the one thing that I noticed, I had seen where Jeremiah had tweeted out, being that they canceled a couple of days, are we looking at running, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the weather's going to break here. And, then you pick up the form and you read how Stronach owns, Laurel. What did they do? They went to the Maryland Racing Commission. They asked for Monday. Monday was not a scheduled racing date, and they got it. Why isn't NYRA doing that? To me, you're never going to change the weather here, but you got to take advantage of the good weather here. And I'll say this, and I kind of buck the system quite a bit, but when I look at it, how many of the board members in New York weather in the winter up here? I don't think they even know what's going on up here. So, to me, it's frustrating because, the trainers aren't making any money. The owners still have the same bill. It doesn't change. And they need to run. So, we have to take advantage of the good days. And, and restricting to a 3 or 4 day week. I don't know how you can do that when you don't know what the weather's going to be on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So I'd rather leave it, we're going to run Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, weather permitting. Just move the card to 1 day. It's already drawn. If you want to be creative and you want to make it work, you can make it work.
I want to ask you also about a change in New York, and as a bettor, I'm all for it. As an owner, I want to ask the new configuration at Aqueduct in the wintertime, moving out to the main track and putting the 2 turf courses in. Again, as a bettor, I'm all in favor of it because it adds the diversity to the race distances that can be run in the wintertime.
I love it.
Yeah.
There was always this myth that the inner track was winterized. Winterized is only done with the soil. I'm a soils guy, so I know that. But, it wasn't like they had a heating system underneath there, and everybody had this infatuation with the inner track that it was winterized. They're winterizing the outer track. And like you had said, it's good for the horses because if you're compromised that you can't, if you want to go beyond 6 furlongs, you're going to get a 7/8 race in the winter, and you're going to get a 1-turn mile, and you're going to get, a 2-turn mile and an eighth. So I think it's, the best thing that could have happened. And what's coming down the road with Belmont. So I think they're laying the groundwork for that. And I think it was a smart move by NYRA to make that move. And so far the track hasn't been the problem. It's been Mother Nature.
Oh yeah. You can't fault the frigid temperatures. There's no way to run in these kind of, because now they're going 40 miles an hour, the wind chill factor, so nobody's arguing there. But as you say, once the weather kind of moderates, to take advantage of some of those seems to make sense as well. But Roddy, we appreciate the visit. Certainly wish you good luck with some of the horses we talked about this morning going forward and other. How many do you have in training now?
In training, probably in the neighborhood of 25. There's a horse I want to mention because I named this horse for a gentleman, Nico, who was one in the fire, and my heart goes out to him, and his family had asked me to name a horse for him, and I talked to Jeremiah. I had a 2-year-old that was training pretty good, and he ran last time, but I don't know why he went off the price that he did. Well, I kind of do know because he's got such a following with his family, and they've been through hell and back. And this horse can run a little bit, and I know he can run. He's not a 6.5 furlong, but with the winter conditions, I talked to Jeremiah and I said, let's just get a start under his belt. And the first thing, Manny Franco wrote him for us, and the first thing he said, he'd be better at 3/4. He says, the horse has got a lot of ability. I knew it was there. He said he ran out of training, which is exactly, we were running a short horse, but a race is worth probably 3 times what a workout will get out of him. So actually, he was in to go today, and we lost a card today. But I hope he runs good on behalf of that family, because I don't know how many members of their family that I didn't know came up to me and thanked me for it. But they don't have to thank me. What that family and he has endured, it's like I would do anything to help out in that situation. So our prayers and heart goes out for him and his family.
Yeah, we'll again send the prayers out and the good wishes, but root for the horse as well as, again, some of the other ones we talked about this morning. Roddy, good luck. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Seth. Same to you.
All right, we'll head to another break. When we come back, we will be visited by Dale Romans. He's got Dak Attack and the Mucho Macho again. We'll talk about that. Some of his other 3-year-olds right after this. Stay with us.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by Dale Romans, live on the phone from Florida. Good morning, Dale.
Good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Pretty good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Things are finally warming up down here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to ask you as our first question, because I think our high today up here in upstate New York, 0 degrees, I think they're predicting. But I don't know whether it's been much better down there in Florida, because I've been watching the simulcast signal, and a lot of folks are wearing jackets. What's it like down there today weather-wise?
Well, I mean, we complain down here, but I don't think anybody in New York would be complaining if they were here. It's about 60 degrees and sunny.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We would absolutely take that. All right, Dale, I want to talk about some of the horses, and, of course, Dak Attack running today in the Mucho Macho again. But haven't had a chance to talk to you in a couple of months anyway, and that includes the time period where you became the all-time winningest trainer at Churchill Downs, and I wanted to hit on that a little bit. You surpassed Bill Mott. I think the number that got you the record was 703. I don't know where you stand now, but 700-plus career victories at Churchill Downs to become the all-time winningest trainer. And folks have to step back and think about it a little bit. That track's been there a long time. A lot of very prominent names have trained there over the years. What did that mean to you to get that record, all-time winningest trainer at Churchill?
You know, it was pretty big for me. It was, you know, that's my home racetrack.
Sure.
I grew up there. Everybody knows pretty much if I was racing. I've been there since my barn at Churchill we've had for 50 years since I was born. It was my father's barn. And to become the all-time leading trainer there was, you know, I don't get very emotional about things, but that was a pretty good big thing. And Bill's such a good friend, and called me right after, and we had dinner at the Breeders' Cup beforehand. He said he was happy to pass the baton. It was really a good day.
Yeah, I was watching the simulcast signal, and you could tell it meant a lot to you. And I think Jenny Reese did a little video with you subsequently, and we played that on the show, and it was nice to see. So congratulations there.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's talk a little bit again about some of the horses, some of the 3-year-olds you have coming up. One today, obviously, in the Mucho Macho again. We're going to take a look at the Ellis Park Juvenile back on August 20th. This will be the number 12 Dak Attack winning. This is the second win in the second career start. So 2 for 2 now with Dak Attack, Dale. But hasn't been seen since this August start. So fill us in on why he's been on the sidelines since then and how he's coming into the race this afternoon.
Well, after his first race back from our first work back from that race, he came out of it with a little shin. And it wasn't bad. We never stopped training on him. I kept galloping him lightly. It seems to help it heal a little, put stress to the bone. And it healed up on its own, and we started breezing him, and he's done very well. The work last week was spectacular. He went 59 and did it all the right way. And Robbie says he's never really let this horse all the way out.
And so what are you expecting this afternoon?
I hope he wins. I mean, this is such a talented horse, and you know, but he doesn't have to win to keep moving forward. But I hope he will, and I think he will. I mean, it's a nice race. This race came up a little tougher than I expected. You know, we got one scratch in there with Colton, Mississippi, which Todd Fletcher, I don't care what the odds are, you got to worry when he's in your race with you. And a mask of Chad's is, you know, there's no telling how much talent he has. So I want to win. I think he can win. I think he's going to win. But if he was to be beat by one of these better horses, and we'll come back in a month and see what happens.
So 5.5 in the career debut. He won that at Churchill. That Ellis race we just watched was 7 furlongs. This afternoon, the 1-turn mile. How do you think the distance will hit him?
Well, you know, when we bought him, we figured he matched what we want for a Derby profile, and so we assume the distance, the further he goes, the better he's going to get. And everything about the way he trains and handles himself says that distance will not be a limitation.
All right, let's move on to another nice 3-year-old you have in the barn. Let's take a look at the Breeders' Futurity from Keeneland on October 7th. Free Drop Billy is going to be the number 9 horse. Win pretty easily that day is the 3-2 favorite. Subsequently, a 9th place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But this is a horse that 4 times in the exact and 5 career starts, so that Breeders' Cup Juvenile was the only off-the-board finish. How's Free Drop Billy doing, and what are your plans for him to start along potentially the Triple Crown Trail?
You know, I never really came up with a good excuse for that poor performance in the Breeders' Cup. I hate to say that it was inside track bias, but that's about the only thing I could come up with.
Yeah.
we gave him a little bit of freshener, and actually he just finished his first work this morning back, and he looked really good doing it, full of energy, and got strong with Tammy going to the pole, and she couldn't pull him up. So, we'll look to start him in the next round of Triple Crown prep races.
Do you have a timetable? Do you have something you're looking at specifically?
Well, the first week of February is when you get your next round, the first and second week, and I'm not sure where we'll be, but we should be able to run in that time frame. Whether it be go to the Withers up there, or stay here for the Holy Bull, or go to Tampa. There's a lot of options.
Sure. All right, I want to touch on another nice 3-year-old that comes out of the barn. 7 trumpets for West Point Thoroughbreds. This one, 2 wins in 3 career starts, broke the maiden in the second start in October, and then we're going to take a look at a allowance optional claiming event at the end of November. 7 Trumpets will be the number 4 horse here, and again, it's for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. Now, as I understand, this horse was aiming for the Jerome in New York. Obviously, weather canceled that. Have they rescheduled? Are you still aiming for that, or what are your other options with 7 Trumpets?
He's up there shivering right now, and yeah, we sent him up expecting to run, last week, but it looks like they're going to run it next Saturday. Looks like the weather's going to warm up a little bit and should be good to go for next Saturday. That's a really good horse too. His first race, I thought he would gallop. I didn't think there was any way he'd get beaten. He ran horrible at Ellis Park. We just came out with scratching our heads and changed his training around, backed up, and gave him a little more time. And when he came back, he ran like a champ for his next 2 starts.
Yeah, and 2 wins at Churchill, 1 in October and 1 in November. I'll ask you, because as a handicapper, when I'm in here doing the handicapping shows in the afternoon, I say a lot. I really think those 2-year-old races in the fall at Churchill are very salty, and 2-year-olds coming out of good performances there seem to stand out to me. Do you agree?
I agree. One of the best things they've done at Churchill in the last several years, I think, is created those 2-year-old days. It's opening weekend. We have an all 2-year-old card, and closing weekend, and so many people around the country, not just in Kentucky, have picked up on what a great day of racing it is, and it's very competitive. You go back and look at those days and see who's come out of there. There's always some good horses.
Yeah, and I think the maidens and the allowance races are salty too there.
Yes.
So I always like the 2-year-olds coming out of that fall meet at Churchill. All right, let's also talk about, speaking of fall meet at Churchill, one more horse I just wanted to touch on, Tis Mischief. That one took 3 starts to break the maiden, did it at Keeneland in October, and then you followed up in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Tis Mischief ran a good second there behind Kieran's Enticed. Enticed, I think, is a nice little horse. You were only a head back running second over the Churchill downstrip in that Kentucky Jockey Club. Talk a little bit about Tis Mischief. What's up next for that one?
Yeah, he's doing really well. He's just never missed a beat. That's a horse who was an inexpensive purchase at Keeneland, and he's a horse that every day of his life has improved. And he'll run in I am going to point him straight to the Holy Bull, and he's trained great here and will run February 3rd in the Holy Bull. But he's, I can't say enough good things about him. He's the one that just keeps improving.
Dale just sat down and in the studio I was talking live with owner Roddy Valente. He wanted me to ask about Coach Rocks.
Well, if he quit meddling with me and let me train my horse the way I want to, we'd do super with Coach Rocks. Yeah, Roddy's got a good filly down here. Him and Coach Patino both are partners on this filly, and she's when she breaks her, she'll be one of those. She's had a couple of tough beat seconds. When she breaks her mate, she's going to go on and do some spectacular stuff for us. Roddy's one of the great owners of this game that knows the game inside and out, and a good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's. It was fun. It's always fun to have him in, but he said it pretty much the same thing. A couple of tough beats maybe, but she had a win sitting out there pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dale, before we let you go, I just wanted to talk a little more about today. Of course, Dak Attack in the stake. But in the 8th race, a maiden special event, you got a couple of horses in there. You have Cove Blue, but that one already has some past performances we can take a look at. I'm more interested in hearing your thoughts on the Green Moster, who first-time starter in that 8th today at Gulfstream by Uncle Mo. Uncle Mo, of course, we all know, a nice sire of precocious runners. The dam is a half to too much bling. The dam produced a sibling called Big Pappy that won its career debut last November. Over at Tampa in a maiden special weight event. So I'm thinking there's some decent little breeding here for the Green Moster. What are you expecting for that one today, first time out of the box?
He can really run. I mean, he's a nice horse. I never get real cranked up on one first time out, but this is a good colt, and he'll run well. But let me tell you something about Cold Blue in the same race. Throw those races out. He's better than what he's run. I don't know why he hasn't run better. He's trained well, and I think he'll run big today, too. Those two horses could run 1-2.
Yeah, I have them in my mix for this afternoon. I thought they were both a little bit interesting. Excuse me, Dale, got to go. Got to wrap up the show. But as always, we appreciate the visit. We'll be down ourselves doing some live broadcasting for the Pegasus in a few weeks. So hopefully we'll run into you then as well. But certainly good luck this afternoon with Dak Attack.
Thank you. It's always good to talk to you.
All right, Dale, appreciate it. Dale Romans live from Florida. Again, Dak Attack in the feature today, and then in that 8, the maiden special. The Green Moster and Cove Blue. He's got a few other courses on the card as well, but those are in claiming races and whatnot. But Dale, hopefully successful afternoon this afternoon. A little earlier, we talked to Roddy Valente, got some thoughts on some of his horses who were nice performers in 2017, and looks like they all have some nice races lined up fairly soon for horses like Miss Hot Stones and Stony Bennett in 2018. And we started things out, fun interview, to kick off our Saturday edition of Racing Across America. We kicked it off with Chad Brown, talked with him for about 20 minutes, and got an update on some of his, including Mask, who is in the Mucho Macho again this afternoon. All right. We put one in the books on a Saturday morning. As I say, we have big shoes to fill. You saw the plaque a little bit earlier. We are broadcasting live from the Mark Casano studio. Again, trying to fill the big Mark Casano shoes here on Saturday mornings. We will be in Saturday mornings from 10 until 11. Sunday mornings as well. That means we'll be back tomorrow morning. And again, programming note, if you haven't been following this week, because it just kicked off this week, Thursdays and Fridays, there will be handicappers reports at 10 a.m., audio versions. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock for the handicappers report, Racing Across America at 10 on Saturday, and then again at 10 on Sunday. Those handicappers reports, again, audio versions, you can pick up the podcast at the website as well, capitalotb.com. Let me hit on promos and events here at Capital OTB. Don't forget, the doors are open here at the Clubhouse Racebook for the NYRA calendar giveaway. First 100 folks for the door, paying a $2 admission, get a 2018 NYRA calendar. That's today here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Coming up a little bit later, a $100 win-a-bet contest here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Swing on by 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And tomorrow, same location, Clubhouse Racebook, NFL Football Sunday. Watch the playoff game between Buffalo and Jacksonville and enjoy all the racing action as well. And don't forget, Bet 50, Get 50 continues through the month of January. Open a new Capital Bets account, bet 50 in, you get 50 into your brand new account. Also want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. Don't forget, as always, I like to put out there questions, comments, suggestions. Email us at viewermail@capitalotb.com. You can contact us on Twitter or via Facebook. Let us know how the brand new show appeals to you, guests you would like to see, any things you would like to see. As I say, I'd love to hear some suggestions if you'd like to toss them out there. Viewer mail at capitalotb.com or go to our Twitter account or our Facebook page as well. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this first edition of the Saturday Racing Across America. We'll be back with Racing Across America again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. A little bit later this afternoon, probably a little over an hour and 10, an hour and 15 minutes. We will kick off with OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. Gulfstream will be in the mix. Tampa and Fairgrounds. Don't forget, Laurel and Aqueduct have canceled here in the Northeast with the weather conditions for today. But we will have plenty of racing action on the network this afternoon. And hopefully, we'll give out some good advice as well. So tune back in about an hour. We'll kick things off with OTB Live. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap things up for Racing Across America. Thanks for tuning in. Tune again for this show tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.
To wire the field. I don't have any qualms with his effort last time out.